Eren Yeager from the anime Attack on Titan is known as one of the most well-written characters in anime. In his world of Attack on Titan, he's changed as a result of events that takes place in his life. But what if he was in a different world? How would his life change? And how would he change as a person? What's cracking YouTube? And I'm here for my very first video on this Clover Abyss channel. And today I'm bringing Eren Yeager into the world of My Hero Academia to answer this question. In this What If series, I will be putting anime characters or powers into other series to see how events would unfold. In order to retain some elements from his original series, such as his backstory, I have altered the story a little bit. Deku has been removed from Class 1A and instead has been replaced with Eren. In events such as class competitions or raffles, we are putting Eren in the same position as Deku to keep it similar to the main series, unless there's a major change. So to begin the story, Eren is born in Japan, the same place where the My Hero Academia award is set. His parents' names are Carla and Grisha Yeager, and in a world full of people full of quirks, Eren would be born without one. Growing up, he becomes more aware of what this truly meant and how this will affect him later in life. All the people he knew had their own unique abilities, and Eren was deeply saddened that he did not have one of his own. He is referred to as a hot-headed individual, but this is due to how determined he is to achieve his goal of becoming a hero. He will begin his journey by trying to be heroic in his daily life, with small tasks such as helping out his family around the house. He cares a lot for his closest friend and his family, and to protect them, he will do whatever he needs to. He can go from calm to violent in a matter of seconds if the situation calls for it. Due to his quirkless nature, Eren would often have to fight with other kids due to them attempting to bully him. One of these students, Katsuki Bakugo, became Eren's rival. They grew up going to the same school, so they would often fight each other in and outside of class. Bakugo saw Eren as someone lower than him because he had no quirk, and Eren hated Bakugo because of his stubbornness and how he treated others. He felt that Bakugo would not be a good hero in this society and often told him to get more serious. Eren idolized the heroes of this society. However, his mother was against this idea, since him having no quirk basically making it possible. Whenever Eren would mention becoming a hero, his mother would yell at him and tell him to give up. Carla did not do this out of hatred, but out of love for her son. Being a hero is a dangerous job, even for the professionals, so what would someone without a quirk be able to do? His father, Grisha, was more lenient on the idea of Eren becoming a hero, and even allowed him to use his computer to watch videos of heroes in battle. One day when Eren was at home, he heard an explosion outside of his house. He ran outside to see what it was, and saw several monsters storming the town he had stayed in. He ran inside his house to warn his parents, however, he only saw his mother and his father missing. Once he grabbed his mother and tried to run out the house together, an attack came from behind and struck his mother. She fell to the ground and began bleeding. Eren dragged her behind the rock and tried everything he could, but he could not do anything to help. His mother used her last words to tell Eren to keep on living, and soon she took her last breath. Eren was saved by Hero All Might, who would defeat the villains. He would wake up inside the facility, and was told that he was found alone, and that his dad did not make it. At this point, Eren was broken. He made it his mission to get revenge of those who killed his parents, the villains. Many years passed after the vicious attack on his city, and Eren now attends the UA entrance exam. Eren now wants to be a hero for a much different purpose, which is to get revenge for his parents' deaths. He attends the introduction and spots his former rival, Bakugo, who he has rarely seen after his parents' deaths. Bakugo approaches Eren and laughs in his face, asking what someone without the quirk is doing here. Eren tells Bakugo that he was showing his progress and becoming an even better hero than him. They go their separate ways and enter UA Academy. Eren takes his seat and listens as the teacher explains the rules of the exam. The students are brought into different battlefields to take on robots that are worth a different amount of points. Points will dictate where you rank among the students and whether you will get into UA or not. There's also a system called Hero Points, which do not have a specific way to be gained, rather it's up to the judges. The event starts off with a bang, however Eren gets off to a slow start. He tries to come up with a plan to take down robots without a quirk, but to no avail. As he looks around, he sees countless students taking down robots with ease, while he still hasn't taken down a single one. He begins to wonder, maybe this hero work wasn't cut out for him, and maybe his mother was right this whole entire time. But out of the corner of his eye, he sees another examinee on the ground, and a large robot standing over her. It was the large robot that was worth 0 points, meaning there was no real reason to try to take it out. This robot was larger than any other that he has encountered, but this fact alone does not stop him. His mind fills with anger, bravery, and fear, and other mixed emotions. All these conflicting emotions leads to him making a risky decision. He thinks that he has to save her. Eren runs towards the girl and pushes her away from the robot, ready to take it on himself. His mom seems to have forgotten the fact that the robot isn't worth a single point, so he's willing to try anything in his attempt to try to take it out. Adrenaline rushes through his body, and he only has one goal in his mind, which is the fact that he must defeat it now or never. Suddenly, a sudden flash of bright light zooms across the battlefield. The vast glow is enough to blind someone, and everyone on the battlefield stops in their tracks to see what's going on. They lay their eyes upon a giant, just about the size of a robot they were facing. It easily took out the humongous 0 point robot and continues to go berserk on every robot and building in sight. Time runs out, and the giant falls over to the ground, letting out a large steam. Everyone rushes over to see what happened, but there was no giant in sight. Instead, there's a student's body laying under the ground. The fallen student opens their eyes and sees the ceiling of a hospital room. They would hear a voice calling out their name. Upon hearing the call, Eren opens his eyes and looks over and sees All Might. He is confused, as the last thing he remembers was being on the battleground. All Might takes his seat next to Eren and tells him what happened and how he turned into a large giant to destroy the robot. However, he brings up the fact that he also destroyed every building in sight and almost harmed the other students. Eren is shocked by these words, as he doesn't remember turning into a giant. He tells All Might that he does not have a quirk, and All Might apologizes to Eren. He tells him that he remembers what he said to Eren as a little boy after his parents died. He also states that he fought for him to get into the school, but it did not work. Eren gets discharged from the hospital and is sent home. As he is walking home, he feels the pain of his body aching, and also the pain of him failing to become a hero. He barely has any energy to open up his front door, and falls right into the ground as he enters. Thoughts of his deceased parents fills his head, remembering how he wanted to be a hero for them. As tears falls into his eye, he looks over and sees a letter on the ground next to his head. He stands up and opens the letter, and sees it's from UA Academy. He assumes that's them telling them that he failed. However, he opens it and sees a large congratulations. He is left in confusion and arrives back to UA Academy where he sees All Might. Next to All Might stood the girl that Eren saw falling between the robot during the exam. All Might proclaims to Eren that thanks to the girl next to him, who was named Uraraka, he is now allowed to join UA Academy. Eren looked over at her with his mind still filled with confusion. She starts speaking for the first time, saying that when she had tripped, Eren activated his quirk. He proceeded to take out the large 0 point robot who was about to harm her. So when she saw that Eren had failed the exam, she tried her best to persuade the teachers that since he saved her, Eren shows great flashes of becoming a hero. Rather than question and claim that he used a quirk, Eren begins cheering loudly due to his excitement in completing the first step of becoming a hero. The next day marks their first day at school, and Eren is assigned to the Hero Class 1A. He sees Uraraka and thanks her again for helping him get into the school. As he steps into the class, he sees Bakugo in the same class. Loudly, he claims to Bakugo that he made it to the school as well. The teacher walks in and tells him to shut up and take a seat. The students are then told about their first test to students, which will be a series of trials which will examine how well they perform with their quirks. They are met by their homeroom teacher and professional hero Shoto Aizawa. He hands them their uniform with no hesitation and tells them to get outside. He begins to explain what the exam will be about, but Eren interrupts and asks what he does since he has no quirk. He is then cut off by Aizawa, who asks Eren what that form was that he took during the exam. Eren responds by saying that he does not know, and that he's never used that form in his life. Before it begins, Aizawa asks Bakugo to demonstrate the ball throwing event to the class, and he throws an astounding 705.2 meters. Bakugo turns around and challenges Eren to throw further than that. After the students calm down, Aizawa tells the kids if they think this is a game then they can go home. He startles the kids even more by saying, whoever finishes last in this competition will be expelled from UA Academy. Eren feels his heart skip a beat, as he does not know how he will perform in this exam without a quirk. The first trial is a 50-meter dash, and one by one the students get great time using their quirks. The time comes, it is now Eren's time to run. He takes off and is running next to Bakugo. He looks at Eren and lets out a small laugh, using his explosion to blast off and reach the finish line. Seconds later, Eren finally reached the finish line with the time of 6:38, while Bakugo ran at 4:13. Eren's time wasn't even close to being at the bottom of the class. However, he knew he needs to strive higher if he wanted to become a hero. Time will pass, and the trials continue to go on with Eren being near the bottom of the chart. Finally, the last event, which is the ball throwing trial, is taking place. Eren's mind is set on getting in a good place in the event so he won't get kicked out of UA. However, this is easier said than done. He begins to think about that time during the entrance exam, where everybody told him he became a giant. He thinks that if he can do that again, maybe he can throw it further than Bakugo. He tries to transform, but only gets weird looks from the other students. Uraraka walks towards Eren and asks if he was trying to activate his quirk again, and tells him to try to remember what led to it the first time. She leaves after those words since her turn is up next, and she manages to throw the ball infinity meters into the air. This startles Eren even more, as he knows that if he can't transform, he won't perform well. Finally, it is Eren's turn. He steps into the plate with the ball in his hand, his heart beating faster and faster every second, and his body shaking like he has no control over it. He stands in the same spot for a few seconds, which leads to him being scolded by Aizawa. Eren knows that just standing won't accomplish anything. If he wants to get revenge for his parents' death, he has to become a hero. He cocks his arm back and gets into a throwing position, with his mind set on throwing the ball as far as he can. I have a goal and I will accomplish it no matter what. Were the last words the students heard before they saw the same large light that appeared during the entrance exam. Eren eyes blacked out for a moment, but he opens them back up and sees the ball that was now in his hand flying quickly through the air. Also, now he was about 10 meters off the ground, and the students looked like midgets from where he stood. This view does not last very long though, as he suddenly transformed back into his normal form. Glancing around, he sees all the students with shocked expressions. However, there stands Aizawa, who has a large grin over his face. Aizawa tells Eren that he has potential and won't be a useless brat after all. He then announces that Eren threw the ball 854.4 meters. All the students are surprised, yet happy. But there's one student who stands away from the others, with a mad frown painted over his face. Bakugo questions how Eren suddenly has a quirk when he was born without one at all. His eye suddenly twitches, and he charges to attack Eren, but is stopped by Aizawa. He reveals that his quirk is the ability to take away someone's quirk using his eyes. With all the students completing the exam, Aizawa reveals that he was not serious about eliminating the student. Eren feels a heavy burden fall off his shoulders, and finally is able to set his eyes back into his goal of becoming a hero. He takes his mind off this for a second and think back on what just happened, and how he never knew he could transform. As he is heading to the station to return to his home, he hears a voice calling out from behind. Eren turns around and sees Uraraka running to catch up to him. They talk about their first day of school, then head their separate ways. Eren was so absorbed in his quirk that he forgot to make friends during his first day of school, so Uraraka was his first. When he returns to his house, he stays up all night practicing using his ability, which leads to him being able to transform on will. The next day is a normal day at school at first. The students go through their normal courses, but this isn't until Chichi comes in and tells them that the hero gear is in. Eren's choice of clothing was a suit of gear that would be lightweight for when he moves around, but they also come with 2 swords that could use for combat without using his quirk. Of course, the blades weren't lethal, but could deal a lot of damage if used correctly. After this, the students are brought out and told they are going through 2-on-2 indoor battle trials. Through a lottery, Eren is teamed with Uraraka and faces off against Bakugo and Ida in the first matchup. The event is set up in a hero versus villain situation, where Eren and Uraraka must retrieve a bomb from the villains, Bakugo and Ida. Knowing Bakugo was his opponent, Eren was determined to win this battle so he could beat him. Bakugo and Ida entered the building first to guard the bomb, then Eren and Uraraka would sit in later. Eren tells Uraraka to stand back as he knows Bakugo is going to ambush them. As he expected, Bakugo came crashing in and shot an explosion at Eren. Away from the battle, All Might and the students are watching the events unfold on the screen. All Might tells the students that Eren and Bakugo's talents are the best in the class, but their lack of self-restraint was what would hold them back. Back to the battle, and Uraraka has left to go find the bomb as Eren has told her to do so. Bakugo charges at Eren, which Eren barely dodges. Though he has a better understanding of his shifter quirk now, Eren is unable to increase his size while inside of a building. Throughout the altercation, Eren and Bakugo throw slugs back and forth, and the battle got even more intense. Eren is using his blades every now and then to try to gain distance from Bakugo's flourishes. After running around most of the building, Bakugo stops chasing Eren, which gives him time to catch his breath. Bakugo interrogates Eren, asking what happened to the power he showed during the trial and why he was scared to use it. Eren responds by saying that a hero does not act rash in situations, and questions whether or not Bakugo has grown up from all those years in the past. This ticks off Bakugo, as he shoots an explosion directly at Eren and knocks him a few meters back. Meanwhile, Uraraka arrives where Ida and the bomb are, but stays still until she hears back from Eren. Before they split, they made a plan that would be put in action when he reports back to her. Back to Eren, and he is still having trouble stopping Bakugo. If they went inside of a building, Eren was sure he'd be able to win his giant form, but his options were limited here. Eren checks his surroundings and sees that he has completed the first step of their plan, getting cornered by Bakugo. Eren backs himself into the wall and looks at Bakugo as he walks toward him. Bakugo charges one final blast and shoots it at Eren, but before it can reach him, Eren bites into his hand. The biting of his hand activates his quirk and turns him into a giant beast. His change in size destroyed the entire ceiling and roof of the building, and the amount of debris blinds everybody in it. This was Uraraka's cue, and with all the ruckus going on, she used her gravity quirk on a large rock and shoots it at Ida. She uses this chance to run and jump into the bomb, which results in Team Eren and Uraraka win the competition. The students and All Might look on in amazement as they deny expect Eren to be able to conduct the plan of this ability. All Might saw the growth that has taken place in Eren since the entrance exam, and how much he has grown since he saved him. Though they won the battle, All Might tells Eren and Uraraka they were not acting officially as heroes, and says the same thing about Bakugo. Eren's plan led to success, but if there were more people inside the building, they would definitely be harmed. But he also showed growth in this battle, as the old Eren would try to fight Bakugo throughout the entire battle, but instead constructed a plan that would help him and Uraraka gain the victory. After all the other students completed their battles, the school day would come to an end. While the students were making their way to the doctors, Eren realizes that his body is entirely healed after the battle. His scars were removed and his broken tooth is gained back by itself. Day by day, he learns more about his newly acquired quirk. He increases his height by several meters while gaining unbelievable strength and speed. He cannot talk, but now he can maintain consciousness. When the sight of his scarless body catches her eye, Momo walks over and starts speaking to Eren. Momo can be described as a big sister in 1A, as she's the most intelligent and richest person in the class. She begins describing what must be happening when he uses his quirk. Your cells must be increasing at a larger rate, and the newly rapidly produced cells are repairing tissue and allowing your body to go to unnatural heights. She also says that his quirk may take long to develop since it has to do with cells, but she isn't really sure. As Eren says goodbye to her and turns to head home, he runs into Bakugo. His angry expression seems to be radiating more than ever. Bakugo is mad about losing and questions Eren for running away in their battle instead of facing him head on. Eren responds by saying that his true goal is defeating the villains, and their rivalry is a thing of the past. The two of them dead head home. The next day, the students are brought to the USJ facility to see how they are when it comes to saving people. This facility consists of several environments with different conditions. These conditions may consist of weather conditions or stormy conditions. Since there are not any restrictions, Eren is finally able to freely use his quirk. However, the thing that has been scaring the school until now has finally come to light. Recently, there's been a breach of the school's security after the public discovered All Might was teaching there. When they arrived to USJ, a group of villains appeared before the training could begin. Aizawa recognizes this threat and yells at the students to run and get away, but Eren, Bakugo, and another student named Kirishima charge towards the villains. Before their attacks could connect, however, they saw a large dark grass around them. Suddenly, the students are teleported to separate locations, and Eren finds himself in a building with Kirishima and Bakugo. They were swarmed by many villains who planned to trap them inside the building to kill them. There was no need for discussion for Eren and Kirishima, as they understood their abilities could work well together. Eren activated his giant form and broke through the ceiling, and Kirishima used his hardening as a guard. He then begins knocking out the villains one by one, and their plan was perfect. Bakugo chose to fight his own, but he still achieved great results. Eren deactivates his quirk and uses two blades to put down the rest of the enemies. Their first trial of real enemies wasn't very challenging though, and they were finished in minutes. Afterwards, they decide to leave and focus on finding the rest of the students and teachers. Eren uses his giant form to get a better view of the stadium, and he sees two students struggling against villains in the water area. They rushed over to the area to see their two classmates, Tsuyu and Mineta, cornered next to a boat. Due to her frog quirk, Tsuyu is able to hold her own, but having to support Mineta was pretty challenging. Eren arrives first and grabs Tsuyu and Mineta and carries them out the water. He tells Bakugo and Kirishima to look after them, but of course Bakugo does not listen. They both run back to the water and finish off the remaining villains. They had no time to relax, however, as they spotted their teacher, Aizawa, pinned to the ground. He was in a critical state, and the one pinning him seemed to be a monster created in the lab. With no hesitation, Eren charges to save Aizawa, but is stopped by a man with a hand over his face. Eren hears a muffled voice behind the hand, and it states that it's there to take down the symbol of peace, All Might. Once those words hit his ears, Eren's entire persona changed. Due to his respect for All Might for saving him on the day his parents died, he was not going to allow him to be harmed. He began lifting his arm to bite his hand to transform, but he suddenly feels a hand over his arm. The arm carried a dark and mysterious aura, and Eren felt his whole body in shivers. His eyes freeze for a second, and he is stuck in a place due to the Hera. He soon looks down and sees his arm breaking as if it's disintegrating. The mysterious man looks at Eren like a tiger would look at his prey. The man begins to speak and states that his master must have made a mistake. Eren could not be the guy he was looking for. He follows by saying that Eren should be killed now, as it would be a waste to have his master do it. Eren is clueless over what all these words meant and attempts to pull the foe's arm off. But then he grabs Eren's face with the other arm. Eren has no time to react, and his life flashes before his eyes, but unexpectedly it had no effect on Eren's face. The villain turns around and sees Aizawa, who's using his quirk to stop his quirk from working. Suyu used this opportunity to pull Eren away from the threat with her tongue, but the damage was already done to his arm and now he was unable to move it. The students looked in shock as both Eren and Aizawa were in critical states. All hope was lost for the heroes, and it seemed like the villains were about to wipe them out. The hope is soon found though, when they hear the facility door bust down. There stands the number one hero, All Might. Sparkles fill the eyes of all the students as the hero is calm. He dashes past all the villains and grabs Aizawa and places him next to Suyu and the others. All Might charges towards a huge monster that was pinning Aizawa, which was now called Nomu by the other villain. He hits the Nomu with powerful punches, but none of them are really doing any harm. The man with the hand over his face explains that Nomu has shock absorption, which is conflicted with the way All Might battled. All Might suplexes the Nomu, but he uses his warp ability to gain the advantage and pierce his fingers to All Might, causing him to bleed. Bako and Kirishima, another student named Todoroki, quickly rush and protect All Might. Eren attempts to charge as well, but Suyu has him held down with her tongue. Eren screams to Suyu to let him go, but she does not listen. Todoroki's ice power allows him to freeze part of the Nomu, which gives All Might the opportunity to escape from his grip. Once All Might is up, he unleashes a flurry of punches at the Nomu. The sight was fitting of the number one hero, and All Might continued to punch until the beast became overwhelmed. One final punch, and All Might sends the Nomu flying out of USJ. Now the man with the hand over his face and the gas-like monster that teleported them at the beginning are standing against All Might. The students decide to leave these to All Might and go to search for the rest of the students at UA. However, what the students do not know is that All Might has been dealing with an injury that has limited his fighting abilities. After his final battle with his arch enemy All For One, he suffered major damage due to a punch to his stomach. This event left him as a shell of his former self, and even using the One For All power is hard for him. The students are gone, and it's just All Might versus the mysterious hand and the purple smoke monster. They charge at All Might, who has no choice but to stand there due to him not being able to move due to his injuries. Closer and closer they inch toward All Might, then bang! A bullet appears from an unknown position and strikes the mysterious man. The heroes has finally arrived, forcing the remaining villains to retreat. The aftermath of this invasion left students with very minimum scars and bruises, except for Eren. When brought to the hospital, the doctor saw that his arm has regenerated by itself, but at a much slower rate than when he was inside his giant form. As Eren and Aizawa were both in the hospital, Aizawa asked him what the mysterious guy, who they discovered name was Shigaraki, meant when he said Eren was a target. Eren states that he himself has no clue, but the next time they meet, he promises he will win. Days pass and class resumes as usual, but the peace only lasts for a little. The students are then told about a sports festival that's coming up that will showcase their abilities as heroes against other classes. In the blink of an eye, the day of the grand event has come. Eren has done hours of training and preparation. While he is waiting in the hallway before the festival begins, he is approached by Bakugo, who tells him that he will come out on top in this competition. Eren replies with a sly comeback of his own. With the two rivals planning to go head to head, Todoroki approaches the two as well, and comments on the fact that they both have great talent, but when it comes to battle, he is who stands on top. The intensity in the hall captures the attention of everyone else who stands in it. Bakugo walks off first, then Todoroki follows, but Eren stays in the same spot. He thinks back on his first real battle with a villain and how he failed to achieve anything. Will he ever see that guy again, and why was he the target of their group? This fact makes him angry, and he sets his mind on winning this tournament to prove he is prepared to fight foes in the real world. A tap on his shoulder makes him jump as he is deep in his inner thoughts. He looks and sees Uraraka. She checks on Eren's mental state, asking how he's been doing since the invasion. Eren says that he is doing fine and forgot about it, but Uraraka's eyes look at Eren like she knows he isn't telling the truth. They depart and walk into the stadium and prepare for the beginning of the festival. The students will partake in the obstacle race where the students will travel 4 kilometers around the stadium. The students heard the call to start and took off running. Todoroki left a trail of ice that left many competitors stuck, but all the Class 1A students saw this coming and dodged. Eren stays at a steady pace in the middle of the group. Due to the large height increase of his quirk, Eren will become a target for all the other students, so he stays in his human form. As the students are running, a group of large robots appear in front of the students, the same robots that they saw during the entrance exam. Todoroki remains ahead of the crowd and easily takes down a number of them, but also lays an ice trap to keep everyone behind. Eren doesn't hesitate to transform and easily takes out the robot, but now everyone knew of his form. He reverts back into normal and gets closer to Todoroki, now taking 3rd place. He is then met by a large fall with small pillars inside with tight ropes held across. The participants are meant to use their quirks to get around or climb the tightrope. Eren questions how he should approach this, as he has nothing in his arsenal that can easily get across like other students. Eren decides to finish the event like how he's done everything thus far, take a risk. He transforms and steps across each pillar, not sure how they will support his weight. As he gets closer and closer to the end of the hurdle, he feels one of his steps cause the rock to begin crumbling. Now, he is hanging off a falling rock with nothing to hold on to. The competitors behind him are left stranded as the tightrope that was connected to the pillar now is off. Eren has a small number of choices in the situation, with every move he makes being the risk leading to him falling. He pulls himself up and makes a leap towards the end of the event. As he's flying closer and closer to the end, he extends his arm and grabs onto the edge and pulls himself up. He looks ahead and sees Todoroki and Bakugo not so far ahead, and all the other competitors far behind due to destruction. He catches up to the other two, and now it's a close race towards the victory. Now they face the last hidden barrier, a minefield. Bakugo proclaims that the victory is his, and he shoots off using his quirk and gets close to the finish line. However, a tall shadow falls over Bakugo, and he looks back and sees Eren running through the minefield, taking out every explosion with his large feet. Eren is in a large amount of pain, and the bottom of his feet are stepping over mines, but he musters through and strives towards the finish. He captures the lead over Bakugo and now holds first place. The finish line seems to only be a few meters away, and the win is seemingly his. As he steps to the finish, Eren feels a large chill climbing up his leg. It looks down and sees that Todoroki has used his ice quirk to hold Eren in place. Eren is able to revert back to his human form and dive towards the finish, but at this point he was already passed up by Bakugo and Todoroki, and it results in him finishing in third. Todoroki finishes first in the event and Bakugo is second. Soon afterwards, other students began finishing the event as well. They began commenting on how Eren's tactics were hot-headed, but due to his hot-headedness he was in the top 3. They also congratulate Todoroki and Bakugo. The latter, of course, was mad due to finishing second. The students quiet down and pro hero Midnight stands on stage to announce the next event. The top 42 students have the right to advance to the next event, which will be a human cavalry battle. Each participant will receive a headband, whose point total is based on what place they finished in your last event. However, the students who finished first is worth 10 million points. This announcement stunned the students, as getting this headband basically assured victory. They all stared at Todoroki, but he kept his blatant normal expression as usual. Eren knew since he finished in top 3 that he would have a lot of points, so he would be a target for other students. He began searching for teammates, but as he expected, it would be difficult due to the large nature of his quirk, and the bitterness that they felt from him causing so much destruction. As he is searching, he feels a tap on his shoulder, and he can tell that's Uraraka. "I'll be willing to work with you, Eren. I'd rather work with a friend than someone I don't know." The two group up and search for more teammates, but at this point everyone is grouped up. They spot Todoroki, who was alone since he has 10 million point bounty. Uraraka suggests that they work with him, however Eren disagrees. "Todoroki was able to beat me during the last competition, but I cannot let him win over me this time, so teaming is out the question." Uraraka is hesitant but understands what he means, and they continue searching for someone else. They decide to work with Tsuyu to form a team of 3. Eren devises a plan that requires the quirk with long range, so Tsuyu was a great option. After a 3-second countdown, the event commences. Tsuyu is on top while Eren and Uraraka carry her. Eren activates his giant form and holds Uraraka and Tsuyu on his shoulders. From up here, it will be difficult to capture headbands, but theirs will be impossible to capture as well. He charges after Todoroki to gain the 10 million point headband, but is stopped by a member of Class 1B. Uraraka states that she remembers the guy from a previous meeting, and his name is Monoma. He looks up at Eren with a smirk on his face and says, "So you're the Class 1A student that left everyone behind the obstacle course." He begins commenting more on Eren's performance, and then mocks Eren's giant form, bringing up the time when he went berserk during the entrance exam. Eren has heard enough and signals to Tsuyu to put the plan that they made into action. Tsuyu extends her tongue and attempts to grab the headband off of Monoma's head, but his teammates create a wall of defense from midair. Having no knowledge of his opponent's quirk will prove to be a challenge for Eren, but he realizes that he also won't know the villain's quirks in battle. Monoma lets out a mischievous smirk and begins insulting Eren. "You Class 1A students have been through a villain invasion, but you don't seem so superior to me. Oh, and by the way, you can thank your friend Todoroki for this one." He raises his hand and shoots out a trail of ice, and they begin running up it. This shocks Team Eren, and Uraraka asks Tsuyu if he has the same quirk as Todoroki, as she can't ask Eren since he's incapable of speech in this form. As Team Monoma is approaching up the ice slide, Tsuyu begins shooting mucus at them, attempting to paralyze them, but they place another wall barrier. Team Eren loses their view of the foe, but suddenly a gust of fire knocks Uraraka off Eren's shoulder, but Eren reaches out and grabs her. While they're distracted by Uraraka's fall, Monoma leaps up from his teammate's shoulder and snatches the headband from Tsuyu's head. Earlier it was stated that the rider is able to grab a headband as long as they do not touch the ground. This action shocks the two girls, and they are unable to react in time to grab it back. Uraraka asks Tsuyu if that was her leap ability that he used, and Tsuyu states that it was very similar. Somehow, Monoma was able to replicate Tsuyu's and Todoroki's quirks. Monoma congratulates them for figuring out his quirk and leaps off Eren's back. Before he reaches his teammates, he feels a tight grip grab him from midair. This action shakes him, and he slowly turns around and sees Eren's giant face staring at him. Eren's grip is tight, so there is no chance for Monoma to escape. He attempts to activate Eren's quirk using his copy of quirk, but for some reason it would not work. Tsuyu uses this opportunity to leap and grab their headband back, as well as Team Monoma's. Uraraka then touches Monoma to keep him mid-air, stopping his team from going back after them. After this altercation, Eren reverts back to his normal state and tells his teammates that they're now going after Todoroki. In doing so, using his quirk will bring about the same result as the obstacle course. They make their way towards Team Todoroki, but sees that Team Bakugo is already in a confrontation with them. Bakugo sees Eren and tells him to go away and let him get revenge on Todoroki, but Eren refuses and says this is his battle as well. Now the battle is set for Todoroki versus Bakugo versus Eren for the 10 million point headband. The audience were glued to their seat, waiting for these three to go head to head. They all charge with each other, but then they hear a countdown. As the count reaches 9, Bakugo shoots an explosion at Todoroki, who swiftly gets away using his teammate's Ida's quirk. Leaving all his attention to Bakugo, he forgets there was another team after him as well. He quickly turns his head and sees Eren in mid-air, launching himself at Todoroki to grab his headband. In this state of panic, Todoroki lifts his left hand and shoots out a spot of fire at Eren, but he is too late. Eren uses the surprise to his advantage and snatches the headband off of Todoroki's head and remains floating in mid-air due to Uraraka's quirk, so they won't be disqualified. Eren begins cheering, but is cut off by someone on the microphone. This event is over, and here are the top results. The display shows the top 12 results, and there in first place stood Team Todoroki. Eren is puzzled and screams at midnight that the results must be wrong, since he grabs Todoroki's headband during the final seconds. She grabs her remote to show the replay, and everyone watches closely. It will reveal that though Eren did take off Todoroki's headband, it was right after the timer hit 0, meaning it would not count. Uraraka and Tsuyu try to console Eren, but he resists their efforts. Everyone in the stadium could see that Eren performed great, but he believes that they failed to grab the headband due to his incompetence. Throughout the entire tournament, the people watching could tell Eren's mind was on something other than this, and due to this, he is putting himself down a lot more than he should. What was affecting Eren was the villain invasion in Shigaraki, so he feels as if this festival is a must-win to prove to himself that what went on during that time won't happen again. Midnight tells Eren that all his hope isn't lost, as there is one more competition in this tournament. The top 4 teams in the prior battle are now going head-to-head in one-on-one battles. Before the battles began, 2 members of the finals decide not to participate, leaving only 13 fighters. Midnight allows this, and instead lets 3 members from the team in 5th place, Tokiyami, Mineta, and Kota, 3 students in Class 1A, into the battles. After all of this is settled, the 16 competitors are drawn from a lot to see who their opponent will be. After just using his quirk for a long duration in the cavalry battle, Eren hopes his first opponent is not someone as skilled as Bakugo, Kirishima, Uraraka, or Todoroki. He looks as the list is projected, and his first matchup is against a student named Shinso, who is in Class 1C. This battle is also the first matchup of the first round. Before that though, the students are allowed a few minutes of recreational time. Eren walks back into the locker room to sit and think about his next battle. He knows nothing about Shinso's quirk, but apparently he was the reason many of the students left during the exam. Unexpectedly, a voice comes from the chair next to Eren's, which catches him by surprise. He looks up and sees Kirishima, who he has rarely seen throughout this tournament. Kirishima laughs and asks why Eren is always so deep in thought, and Eren replies saying he was just thinking about his battle against Shinso. Kirishima informs him that he knows that his quirk has something to do with his voice, but he is not entirely sure. Eren thanks Kirishima, but tells him that he would rather not know anything about his opponent before a match, as that is how it is in a real battle. This comment reminds Kirishima about Eren's past and how his parents were killed in a villain invasion that he heard of as a kid. That disaster was broadcasted all over the world, but only a few people knew Eren was one of the survivors. Kirishima heard it from Aizawa as he was curious why Eren never spoke about his family. He begins telling Eren about his childhood, starting from the story about his first encounter with a villain. An incident took place where he met face to face with a large threat that scared many of his classmates, but was too scared to do anything. The students were saved by Mina, who is also a student in Class 1A, and the fact that she was able to do something while he was not left him feeling incapable. Kirishima tells Eren that he understands exactly how Eren feels after the invasion, but he should not let it get to him. This is just the advice Eren needed to get back on his feet and gain his confidence, as his struggles only added to the fuel of his feeling of uselessness. They both stand up and shake each other's hands to wish each other luck for their battles. Eren reminds Kirishima that if they both win their fights, they are set to face each other in the second round. With this, Eren takes off and steps on the stage for his first battle. He steps out from the tunnel and steps into the bright stadium. Across from him is his opponent, Shinso. The rules are simple. The competitor is out if they exit the stage or are unable to fight. They also cannot attempt to kill someone, as this conflicts with the ideal of a true hero. After introducing the two fighters, the battle begins. Everyone expects Eren to activate his quirk at the beginning of the battle to gain the advantage, but they are surprised when he does not. His reasoning for this is that he is unsure of Shinso's quirk, so he does not want to take chances. Instead, he chooses to rush Shinso and attempt to take him out using hand-to-hand combat, but he stops in his tracks after Shinso begins talking. He tells Eren that he expected this approach from a hot-headed individual like Eren, so this battle will be over in a second. Eren tells him to stop being so sure of his victory, as he has 3 people he has to fight later on in the tournament, so he can't lose. He steps to swing at him, but his body suddenly stops moving. What occurred with Shinso's brainwash quirk, which allows for him to take control of anyone who answers him. Eren is beginning to lose consciousness and can only hear the sound of Shinso's voice. He utters the words, "I order you to walk out of bounds," which Eren has no other choice but to do. Eren begins walking towards the outside of the ring, and the audience is shocked by how fast his battle ended. Kirishima grits his teeth as he knew Eren would hate to lose like this, and Bakugo scolds Eren for falling for a trick that simple. As his feet are centimeters away from stepping out of bounds, he suddenly stops. Shinso is confused and tells Eren to continue walking, but his body does not respond. They believe that Eren gained control over his body, but this isn't the case. He is still under Shinso's command, but his body won't respond to anything, not even brainwashing. Suddenly, steam starts to erupt from Eren's body, and the light storms the battlefield. Once the stage is visible again, a large giant figure emerges from the smoke. Everyone is stunned, as it seemed that Eren's loss was inevitable. So how did he transform? At first, Eren just stands in one spot on the stage, twirling his hair from side to side as if searching for something. Once he turns around, he locks his eyes onto Shinso, which startles him. Nobody in the stands nor Shinso himself could tell, but the students of Class 1A noticed that Eren seemed off. Usually, he has more control when using his quirk, but he appears to be in a similar state as when he went berserk during the entrance exam. He lets out a ferocious roar and dashes towards Shinso. He begins screaming threats and words to Eren, but he can't respond to any of them. He clutches Shinso in one hand and raises him into the air close to his face. Wiggling and shaking did not loosen the grip at all, and Shinso couldn't think of anything else he could do. Eren begins tightening the grip even more, to the point where blood spits out of Shinso's mouth. The heroes have no choice but to stop the match, but even after their calls, Eren does not release Shinso. He begins winding his hand backwards in a throwing position, which causes the fans to hold their breath. The heroes rush towards the stage, but his arms begins to push forward as if he's resisting himself. After time passes, Eren regains his consciousness and drops Shinso and deactivates his quirk. The medics quickly rush over to Shinso's side, and the crowd remains silent in shock. Eren could feel the anger of the crowd, even hearing many parents calling him a monster. He returns back into the locker room and locks himself in to get some time to think. Eren has seen villains as monsters his entire life after the invasion, so being referred to one angered him. He was always waiting to obtain the quirk his entire life, just for it to result in him being outcasted by the public. But it wasn't his decision. He heard a voice when he was brainwashed. He wasn't sure what it was saying or who it was, but he knew what he heard. Eren returns to the crowd to sit alone to watch the rest of the first round. Kirishima and Todoroki both win their respective matches, and finally it was Bakugo's turn. Eren wants to face off against Bakugo in this tournament, however his opponent is Eren's friend Uraraka, so he's unsure who he wants to win. The beginning of the battle is heavily favored towards Bakugo, however she tries her best to use tactics to win the battle. But her efforts are futile, and Bakugo is able to win this battle. The second round begins, and Eren faces up against Kirishima in the first battle. As he took the stage, he could still feel the stirs of the crowd after what occurred in the last bout. Kirishima looks worried about Eren, but as this is a battle, he doesn't have time to talk. The battle begins and they both dash toward the middle of the ring to clash. Eren tries throwing punches and kicks toward Bakugo, but his hardening quirk bruises his hand and feet upon contact. He tries to dash back to gain distance, but Kirishima does not let up. Eren gets knocked down for the first time in the battle, and it looks like he's at a great disadvantage. He makes the realization that he won't win this battle without his quirk, so he jumps back and bites into his hand. There's a long pause, and yet nothing happens. He tries to activate his quirk again, but the result is the same. This leaves him puzzled, as this has not happened to him before. Is there a limit to the amount of times he can use his quirk? But he was sure he has used it more than he has used it today. However, he was still able to activate it. During this time of struggle, Kirishima took the opportunity to knock Eren onto the ground, near the edge of the stage. Eren gets up and quickly gets out of the way of the next attack, which could have knocked him out of the ring. While he dodges attacks, he questions to himself why his quirk isn't activated at a time like this when he really needs it. He tries biting into his hand again, but like last time, there was no result. Kirishima gets another good hit on Eren, who is now struggling to get up. The audience watches that Eren is at a big disadvantage, and it seems Kirishima is about to go to the next round easily. But In the Ring tells a different story. Eren is hanging on with every ounce of strength he has, but it is not enough. Kirishima has crushed his opponent in the ring, but there is a pained expression on his face as he knows what Eren has gone through. He dashes toward Eren for one more final blow that will end the match. As he gets closer and closer, he notices that Eren is beginning to stand up after all the blows that he has suffered thus far. The reason Eren is able to stand up now is because he made a realization. He figured out what was stopping his quirk from activating. At the beginning of this match until now, there was something that haunted him. He feared turning into a Titan again and hurting one of his classmates. He feared the crowd seeing him as a monster similar to the villains he hated. But he realized that there was nothing that he feared more than failing his mission of defeating all the villains. He got up on his feet and was determined to finish the match off, even if he couldn't transform. They both stand at opposite sides of the rings, ready for one final clash, as Eren's body can't take another blow and Kirishima can't hold his quirk for too long. They both dash to the middle of the ring and raise their fists for a blow. Eren lets out everything it has left to desperately win this match. However, it is Kirishima's fist that strikes Eren's face first, breaking his jaw on impact. But suddenly, a dash of lightning strikes across the arena and a loud crash erupts. As the smoke and debris settle, the crowd can see an uncautious Eren laying in the middle of the ring, believing that he lost his fight. However, someone shouts and points out that Kirishima was nowhere to be found. As they look around for him, Midnight picks up the microphone and picks out where Kirishima is. He lays unconscious in the outside of the ring, crashing through the wall of the stadium. As Eren was knocked out in the middle of the ring, Kirishima was knocked out outside the ring, who was the victor of the battle. Meanwhile, Eren wakes up in the hospital bed, though his wounds have already healed by himself after the battle. As he looks around the room, he sees Midnight and Aizawa sitting in there as well. When they realize he's awake, they tell him the results of the battle. Eren won the match, and he is shocked by these words, as the last thing he remembers was Kirishima knocking him out in the middle of the ring. However, Aizawa explains that at that moment his quirk activated, but only just through his arm and not his entire body. As they show him what occurred during the instant replay, Eren sees that without biting his hand, his quirk activated only one part of his body, which then hit Kirishima with enough force to put him out of the ring before Eren could hit the ground. No excitement or cheers came out from Eren, as he was more worried about the condition that Kirishima was in since his last battle left Shinso in the hospital. Aizawa clears Eren's worries and tells him that Kirishima is doing just fine in the nursing room, as he is a tough kid himself just like Eren. With this, both adults leave the room to watch the rest of the matches, but tells Eren to rest a little more as it would take time. While Eren lies in bed, he remembers that if Bakugo and Todoroki both win their second round matches, they will have to compete in the third round against each other. Eren will have to face either Ida or Tokiyami in the next battle, with the winner of this bout heading to the final battle. Eren makes his way to the audience, where he finds the rest of his classmates sitting. During this waiting period, he watches both Todoroki's and Bakugo's matches, which they both win. This sets up both matches for the third round, Eren vs Ida and Todoroki vs Bakugo. Eren heads down in preparation for this third battle of the day. On his way down, Bakugo stops him to declare his victory in the tournament, stating that if Eren can't control his Titan form, he has no chance of beating him in the finals. Eren tells Bakugo not to worry, as he has gotten his quirk under control and won't lose. But first, he has to get through the battle with Ida. Though Ida is a very experienced and intelligent student, Eren's comeback experience was just too much and he came out with the victory. Finally, the headline of the day other than the finals is taking place, Bakugo vs Todoroki. As soon as the battle starts, Bakugo blitzes Todoroki and forces him to be on the defensive side. Though the two are quite even in combat, Bakugo has a slight edge in this battle. Uraraka mentions to Eren that Todoroki has a fire side that he won't use, but if he used it, he could very likely win this match. Being too dependent on his ice abilities, Bakugo takes the victory in this match and will face off against Eren in the final battle of the festival. Bakugo is mad that he won in such a way against Todoroki, so he declares that he would take off his anger on Eren. The time for the final battle has come, and Eren and Bakugo stand on opposite sides of the ring. This battle is set to be a rematch of the battles the two had earlier during the 2-on-2 battle trials. The announcement for the beginning of the match sounded, and Bakugo dashes toward Eren and shoots an explosion. Eren jumps out the way and bites into his hand, activating his quirk early on in this battle. Bakugo scoffs at Eren, telling him that he is an even bigger target for his attacks now. But unlike he expected, Eren's speed in this form was great. He throws a rocket speed kick and connects and blows Bakugo across the ring. Luckily, he stays in due to his quirk, but this attack shakes him. He quickly responds and shoots an explosion at Eren's leg, chipping away at the flesh to try to disable him. Once Eren notices what he is doing, he throws a swing at Bakugo, who dodges it by jumping into the air. While he's in the air, he is snatched by Eren's giant hand. He lets out a giant roar, similar to a battle cry, and throws Bakugo to the ground. The impact causes blood to spit out of his mouth, but he is able to get up and recover. Getting more and more rage after every hit, Bakugo's blood starts to boil. He shoots multiple blasts at Eren's leg, forcing him to take a knee. Blast after blast, Eren's Titan form begins to deteriorate and one huge blast to his face blinded him. Turning back into a human will be risky now, as his vision will still be out, but staying in Titan form is hurting his body a ton. As long as Bakugo keeps consistently blasting at Eren, he finally needs to step back to cool down. This gives time for Eren to regenerate, but his body is still sustained heavy damage. Eren realizes that one more good blow to his head will probably end the fight, so he assumes Bakugo knows this too. He uses his arms to guard his face and continues taking blows from Bakugo. Suddenly, a huge wave of smoke hits Eren's face, and from behind he feels an explosion at the back of his neck, blowing a hole in his nape, exposing Eren's true body inside of his quirk form. Bakugo didn't use his strategy knowing this would happen, but he makes the realization that Eren's nape is a weak point in his giant form. He pulls Eren out of the giant and launches him back down to the ring. After his leg took so much damage in his colossal form, Eren struggles to stand once he's back on the ground. Bakugo slowly approaches him, throwing insults his way and telling Eren that at least he tried his best. He charged up for the final blow, but then Eren drove up from the ground and uppercuts Bakugo. This blow sends a shockwave through the stadium, and Bakugo is knocked square off his feet, slamming into the ground. Eren crawls back onto his feet, hoping that Bakugo does not get up from that hit. His feet are not supported beneath him, and his legs are shaking uncontrollably. Bakugo remains on the ground for a few seconds, then begins attempting to get up. As he finally reaches his feet, he glares at Eren with an angry expression. He walks towards Eren and winds up an explosion, which Eren tries his best to guard. As it hits him, he is blown back a few feet, but maintains his guard. Bakugo gets more angry and shoots another, then another, until Eren's arms begin to bleed. However, he still maintains his guard, refusing to lose this match. He bounces back and strikes Bakugo, and Bakugo responds with a punch of his own. Now that both of the students are out of energy and can't use their quirks, they have to resort to an all-out brawl in the middle of the ring to settle it. Eren throws one, then Bakugo throws another. After countless back and forth punches, they both wind up for what seems to be the final clash. They both throw their fists forward to connect with each other's jaws, but unexpectedly, Bakugo shoots one final explosion as he connects and blows Eren back. With no more energy to even move or get up, Eren falls in this match. Bakugo wins and is declared as the winner of this tournament. As soon as he received the victory, Bakugo hit the ground as well. This long and hard-fought battle definitely earned the respect of everyone in the crowd. After they healed in the medical room and received their medals, Eren and Bakugo walked past each other in the hallway. No insults were thrown at each other, and it seemed they both gained newfound respect for each other, even if they are still rivals. The festival is over, and the students of UA return and resume class as usual. Before they get to their lesson, Aizawa tells the students that they will partake in hero agency courses. After the festival, many heroes scattered the students that caught their interest and invited them to their agency. As Eren was in second place in the tournament, the class expected him to have a huge amount of invites. However, this wasn't the case. Eren only received a few offers from heroes, which confused him. Uraraka noticed that he looks puzzled and explains that maybe since he was berserked in the tournament, many heroes thought he wasn't fit for their agency. As he looks down the list, one name sticks out from the others, which was Mount Lady. Her quirk was similar to Eren's, as she increased her height to an incredible amount. She most likely recruited Eren due to this, so he chose to work with her. As he's finishing deciding who to choose, Kirishima walks up to Eren to talk to him. He explains that Eren did great during the tournament, so with a little more experience he could be ready to take on villains as he wishes. Eren then responds telling Kirishima that he can tell that he has gotten much stronger. The rest of the class joined the conversation, noting how they all improved during the situations they've been placed in as a class. Aizawa looks on and waits until they finish talking, then tells the students that they have one final task, which is to choose their hero names. As a child, Eren always came up with corny hero names that he wanted to go with, but as he grown up, he is more unsure what he wants to go with. Uraraka taps him on the shoulder and suggests the names the Attack Titan. This is due to his tall, titan-like nature and his ability to attack any situation head-on. This name catches his interest and he decides to go with it. After school, Eren makes his way to Mount Lady's agency. Upon their first meeting, Mount Lady explains that she saw a lot of potential in Eren during the festival, but his temper was an issue. She also explains that she wants to polish some of his movements and attack and teach him the best way to use height from his advantage. The first day of the training consists of movement training and how to maneuver best being in such a large form. They also spar in combat, which causes Mount Lady to recognize Eren's great talent in combat. He is also a smart fighter, but often makes bad decisions due to how hot-headed he is. Eren explains that during the tournament, he discovered from one of Bakugo's attack that he has a weakness, which is his nape. She suggests that he works on his agility so he can quickly turn around and take out enemies from behind, but there is no definitive way to stop this. After a few weeks of training and preparation, Mount Lady allows Eren to follow her while she's patrolling the town after he asks countless times. While they are out, Eren gets a good look at the large city for the first time. Families out and about, people working, and kids playing in the playgrounds. Eren clenches his fist, as this sight is what he wants the future to look like for the people. A future without the worry of villains, a future where everybody can live in peace. As he glances around the city, a loud crash is heard from further through the town, and they rush to see what occurred. Mount Lady tells Eren to stay back and rushes to the scene of the attack. Suddenly, Eren sees Mount Lady get thrown back and crash into a building. He quickly rushes to where she is, but is stopped by a vicious aura. He looks to his right and sees Shigaraki, who he has not seen since the attack at USJ. He stands there with an entire team of villains, consisting of the huge Nomu and a group of other bloodthirsty foes. Eren begins thinking that this is his chance to take out Shigaraki and the rest of the villains, but with Mount Lady out of action, he is largely outnumbered. While he reaches to bite into his hand, Shigaraki dashes toward him and reaches his hand toward his face. He does not completely touch his face though, and tells Eren he just wants to talk. He states that he's watched his performance at the tournament and was surprised at how well he handled himself, but now it's time to hand him over to his master and have him killed. He also tells Eren that he would tell him the rest of the story, but they have to harry and kidnap him before All Might has a chance to arrive. He orders Kurogiri to make a portal so he can grab Eren and make their escape, but Eren activates his quirk to face the villains head on. He believes that this time he won't hesitate like before and finish off the villains. After weeks of training and the experience at the festival, he is prepared to take them on. He swings a quick kick at Shigaraki, knocking him far back into some buildings. He then rips out a large chunk of a building and tosses it at the villains, but Shigaraki gets up quick enough and disintegrates it. The villains begin dashing to dodge Eren's rampage, but he stomps his way through many buildings, causing major damage to the city. Since his mind is only on taking out the villains, Eren's ability to decipher what he's doing decreases. As he runs through the town, he suddenly feels his leg get cut and he comes tumbling down. His leg begins accumulating steam as it's healing, but then he suddenly stops moving. His body is no longer in control, but this is not a brainwash curse as Eren went through in the tournament. He could still think normally, but his body simply did not listen to his commands. Eren lies on his stomach, which allows Shigaraki to walk on top of his neck. How hilarious. Did you cut your leg while running? Well, I guess you can't respond to me now, and the next time you'll be awake will be in my master's lab. Shigaraki finishes his statement, then decays Eren's neck. As he reaches to pull him out, he is suddenly cut across the stomach. Blood begins coming out, and he drops down to a knee. It seems my quirk is effective. The Titan must be blood type B. The voice came from a shadow next to the crashed building where Eren laid. Suddenly, a guy with a mask and scarf comes out. He carries a sword on his back, which is what he used to slash both Eren and Shigaraki. Shigaraki looks up at Stain, making a face as if he recognized him. This was due to their prior meeting, which led to Stain attacking Shigaraki after the conflict that occurred. This was due to Stain's dislike of Shigaraki's bloodlust, which he felt was unneeded. Stain pushes Shigaraki off of Eren's back, then points his sword at Eren's chest. Eren is currently passed out, as his nape was just destroyed by Shigaraki, leading to Stain pulling him out. Before he thought about giving the killing blow, he begins to give a speech to Eren. You're weak. You use your quirk in such a selfish way, with no care of protecting anyone. Luckily, the citizens in town escaped, but your bloodlust would have killed all of us if everybody was here. As he raises his sword to finish Eren off, a dash of light blasts through the air, and Stain is kicked with such velocity that he crashes into the rubble that was caused by Eren's destruction. The attack was caused by Eren's classmate, Ida. He lifts Eren up and lays him down, away from Shigaraki and Stain. He then returns to battle face to face with Stain. His face is full of rage, and he proclaims that he will get revenge for his brother. He uses his injured quirk to blast towards Stain, but suddenly Stain disappears. Ida looks around, but suddenly Stain comes from above and slashes Ida. Ida attempts to stand, but then he's paralyzed. He noticed that Stain licked his sword, leading to the paralyzation. Stain stands on top of Ida, then begins to criticize his hero ideologies, which Ida refuses to listen to. While all of this is occurring, Shigaraki stands from his knee and staggers towards Eren. He throws his hand up, seeming to be signaling for something. Suddenly, from behind a large pile of rubble, a purple portal is created. It was a portal created by Kurogiri, who was hiding this entire time waiting for Shigaraki's signal. A group of villains that Shigaraki brought along came out from their hiding and grabbed Eren, carrying him to the portal. Before they reached it, Stain appeared in front of them. Stain says he won't let them escape with Eren, then cuts all the villains carrying him. As he's slicing, Shigaraki places his hand against Stain's leg and decays a part of it, which gets Stain out of the way. This slows him down for a little, allowing Shigaraki and Kurogiri to make their escapes with Eren. Eren opens his eyes and sees a ceiling he's never seen before. He looks around and sees what appears to be a bar, with Kurogiri behind the counter. Shigaraki sees that Eren is finally awake, then places the chair in front of where Eren is held. He begins speaking and tells Eren to thank his father for all of this, as he's the reason why Eren has a quirk now. Eren is confused by this statement and begins yelling at Shigaraki that he's gonna kill him for mentioning his father. Shigaraki stands up and kicks Eren, telling him he's lucky he doesn't just kill him right here and now. He sits back down and begins the story from the beginning. Of course, he wasn't here for this, but was informed by his master. Before Eren was born, Grisha was a scientist that worked for Shigaraki's master, All For One. Grisha was the best scientist and was on track to create an incredible quirk called the Titan Shifter. This quirk was to be pumped into All For One to increase his power even more, but before it was completed, Grisha changed his mind and decided it was best to not give it to someone that dangerous. To avoid it being found, he injected the serum into himself, causing him to become the Attack Titan. For years, he was listed as a villain and often had the hero agency on his tail. At the same time though, All For One would send villains to look out for him. This was all the information Shigaraki had besides the day Eren's parents had died. However, hearing this made Eren unlock memories of events he's never seen or heard about. The style of living of surviving ambushes from heroes and villains was tough, and Grisha would have to watch his back every second of the day. This way of living would have led him to dying from exhaustion in no time, so he decided on a plan. If he could have a child, he could test that the Titan Shifter quirk could be handed down some type of way, then give it to the child. During this time, he married Carla and had his son Eren. Grisha was hesitant to give the Titan quirk to Eren, as failing would lead to the death of his son. But he made up his mind, knowing that if he let All For One get the quirk, the world would be in major danger. As he waited for Eren to become old enough to inherit the quirk, his plan was shriveled by All For One discovering where they have lived. When he realized he'd been found out, he ran away from home to make sure they didn't find the quirk. He couldn't bring Eren along with him, as it would slow him down, and he set his mind on having another child and passing down the quirk if Eren died. After the danger had passed by, he found Eren and cried tears of joy to discover not everyone was killed. He injected the serum into the quirkless Eren, and Eren shifted into a Titan upon the serum reaching his blood. Grisha tried to make Eren calm down, but the rage was not calmed down. Eren turned around and locked eyes with Grisha, his eyes having a bloodthirsty look. He looked at his father and ate him, causing him to turn back into a human. The villains weren't able to find Eren, and this is the point where he was saved by All Might. While the villains were invading USJ, they discovered that the large giant they spotted was definitely the Titan Shifter quirk, and Shigaraki reported it to All For One. This was all according to Grisha's plan, as he endorsed Eren becoming a hero when he was younger and expected him to be discovered by All For One. His goal was for Eren to become a hero strong enough to defeat All For One, and not begin a cycle of passing down the Titan Shifter quirk. The League of Villains spied on Eren every day until they knew the perfect opportunity to kidnap him, which was now. Receiving all of this information at once was impossible for Eren. His mind seemed to be filled with thoughts that weren't his own, sounding more like his father's voice. This wasn't planned by Grisha, but this traumatic event of finding out his father's past seemed to unlock the memories of who he ate. He was terrified by the fact that the reason he received this quirk was because of an injection, and it was him who killed his father. Feelings of despair and regret clouded his mind. The quirk that he thought he was blessed with ended up being a curse. After giving him time to take it in, Shigaraki explained that there are 4 other quirks that Grisha created that they were going to hunt for. He told Eren they were going to use him to find it, and if he failed to listen, the villains could easily defeat everyone at UA. Eren held his head down and told them to just kill him, as the guilt of killing his own father was too heavy to deal with. Shigaraki told Eren this wasn't an option, and would come back later when Eren was ready to comply. Back in town, All Might arrives and finds an injured Mount Lady. He asks her what went on, but she seems to be desperately looking for something. With tears in her eyes, she looks up and tells All Might that Eren had been kidnapped. All Might's eyes froze from shock, and he moved at an incredible speed to get Mount Lady to safety, and looks for Eren. After searching corner to corner, he ran into a large pile of rubble that looked as if it was caused by Eren. As he ran over to search, his entire body froze. The sight that he saw restored his whole consciousness. A body with a stab wound directly through his chest laid on the floor in a pile of his own blood. There was no breathing, and All Might walked closer, and he noticed it was Ida's dead body.